Welcome everybody, and thanks for attending today's webinar on how to leverage your ELD investment. My name is Sarah and I'll be acting as your moderator for today's presentation. We're going to go ahead and get started in just a second. Right off the top, I'd like to say first that we're very excited to have Mike Koebel as our presenter today. By now, I'm sure most of you have heard about the FMCSA's new ELD mandate and how its requirements will affect drivers and carriers. As a subject matter expert, Mike will be taking a look beyond ELD functionality, and we'll discuss the additional value ELD technology can bring to your business. Before we get started, I just want to give everyone a quick heads up. The microphones have been muted, so if any of you have any questions at any time during the presentation, you can use the WebEx chat tool. You should all see the chat icon located on your screen, and this acts as an instant messaging tool. Please feel free to use your WebEx chat tool to enter any questions during the presentation. Make sure you send them to host, and I'll be happy to field and relay them to Mike at the conclusion of our presentation for a brief Q&A session. With that said, I think we'll get started. Mike, I'll make you the presenter, and you can get started whenever you're ready. Looks like we can see your screen, so let's go ahead and get started.
Great, thanks, Sarah. I appreciate that, and thanks everyone for joining today. We're hoping to just have a quick 15-minute or so session today and introduce kind of the topic of going beyond the ELD and leveraging that technology investment. So I'm the sales director for the Field Service Solution Division of AssetWorks, and sort of been involved in mobile computing and wireless technologies for since the early 90s. So today, I would like to cover, we're going to touch base, we're going to just do a bit of the ELD Ruling Recap. Going to talk about the benefits of ELD. Safety is obviously the critical one, but there's some other benefits of ELD I think that are very important to look at. So if you are looking at a decision, we have some different camps of I'm going to make a decision as quick as I can and get ahead of this thing, or I'm going to wait till the last possible day. So we'll look at some of the other benefits of ELD and to see where that's a fit for your organization. And overall, again, the core topic is how do I leverage that ELD investment? I am going to have to do something, so maybe it's a great time to look at the technology in my fleet and say, if I am going to make a change, what else should I be looking at for today and for the future? So from a recap perspective, December 18th, 2017 is when the completion of ELD deployment is to occur. There is a bit of a grandfather clause, so if you already have an existing AOBRD solution today, you are grandfathered till December 2019, so you've got a couple extra years. So who has to? Well, interstate drivers today who are currently required to do logbooks or records of duty status are required. Any intrastate drivers for states that have adopted the federal rules, and also if you switch between interstate and intrastate, you also have to comply with the federal rules 7 days prior. So the gist of this is there's quite a few organizations that the ELD ruling is going to apply for. And then for anyone in Canada, as I know we have some Canadian folks on the phone, the ELD ruling, of course, applies once you cross the border. And also, just as of this week as well, our federal government's announced that in the next 2 years, Canada's going to be aligned with the U.S. rules. It's basically a given because there's a lot of cross-border. They're going to be very similar ruling because they're not going to have ELD ruling in Canada that's, you know, that technology platform won't work in the U.S. That just won't make sense. Industry wouldn't stand for that. So it was interesting to hear that the federal government did make that announcement this week, just 2 days ago. So what are some of the automatic log creation benefits? So when you go to ELD, it automatically creates the logs. So a critical one is just the log creation. It takes effort to create the logs. There's lots of training of drivers, there's lots of retraining, and there's lots of errors. So there's a lot of administrative time managing just errors from creating the logs. And that goes hand in hand with reducing violations and the cost with those violations. The lion's share of all the violations have to do with form and manner or logs not current. And those two violations will be eliminated once you go to automatic logs. The automatic logs eliminate the form and manner because they're automatically creating them, and logs not current, well, the logs are always current when you have an ELD solution. So, and a few of the other benefits are paper handling. One of the interesting things I've learned over the last while is that only tax filing paperwork is more than hours of service paperwork handling. So the cost of distribution of paper collecting and storing is a tremendous cost. And any of you who have gone through an audit, we're going to talk about that next, audit simplification is managing that paper, finding the logbooks, making sure they're accurate. It can be a real nightmare process. So when you go to the automatic logs, just an audit simplification is the fact that all that data is at your fingertips in real time. So what could have taken management weeks potentially before in an audit situation, you can now manage that in literally minutes from your automated logbook program. And the other benefit, of course, another benefit is real-time status awareness. I, as a driver, will see, accurate up to the minute where I'm at in my duty cycle. I can make timely and accurate decisions based on real information, not assumptions. And same with dispatch. Dispatch can now have true visibility and availability where people are at. Are there things that need to be addressed? And the ability to make these decisions in real time are very helpful from a ELD perspective. Safety and liability is, of course, one of the key reasons why the FMCSA has deployed their ELD ruling, right? So reduced deaths and injuries due to fatigue is the number one issue, right? Notwithstanding death and injury, there's the costs. On average, they've estimated, there's at least $13,000 per property damage incident, and when you get into fatalities, it's a millions. It's just a tremendous liability and cost. So the goal of the automatic logs and ELDs is really to reduce this, get rid of the percentages of crashes that are happening due to fatigue because people are exceeding their duty cycles. So that's a real critical benefit for going to the ELDs. So what are your options? There's probably two real main approaches for ELDs. I can look to an ELD solution that's going to be a very standalone. The goal of this solution is it's to meet the minimum requirements of the ELD so that I can be compliant with the law. And that's it. That's the entire goal of this solution set. And then what we're more interested in talking about today is what about a multifunction, integrated ELD solutions? An ELD solution that gives me a platform that goes beyond just ELD and help me with my fleet management. So with integration capabilities from other business systems, whether you have, QuickBooks or, full ERP system, you have some infrastructure in place that could benefit from real-time data coming in from an ELD or fleet management solution. So looking beyond ELD and giving my organization greater ROI, making me more competitive as well. So vehicle inspection is a kind of a given. An ELD platform should support vehicle inspection. It's a requirement for compliance. If I do driver logs, I need to do inspections. So that functionality you need to be looking for is I need to have a system that's going to give me alerts. It's going to alert the driver to make sure he knows that there needs to be a DVI completed. It's going to give real-time alerts to maybe your mechanics for any defects, real-time alert to the driver in case, hey, you selected something that's a major defect, you can't drive this vehicle. And another thing you should look at in a DVI solution is the ability to add company-specific items. A lot of you may have specialty vehicles, or you have process, inspection items beyond the standard government forms that you want your drivers to check. If you have specialty equipment on board, your back truck or your other specialty equipment, and you want the ability to add those items into your vehicle inspection process. So it's not just the government form, but it's the government form plus what's relevant to your workflow and how you want your drivers to do the inspection. The other kind of obvious one is GPS tracking. You should really be leveraging your ELD solution for your GPS tracking. It doesn't make sense to have duplicate hardware in your vehicle. It's the maintenance of it. It's the cost, duplicating monthly software license and wireless data plans. And at the end of the day, you want to have all your assets on a single map, a single platform. So, at this point, a lot of you probably have GPS solutions, but it's a good time to evaluate, hey, I need to, do I want to have two different platforms for that? And hand-in-hand with GPS, of course, is telematics, right? An ELD has to have ECM connectivity, which includes, your mileage tracking, your fuel consumption trouble codes, engine hours. So you got a lot of data now you're capturing. And so you should be capturing those telematics data, not just the mileage and items that are critical to logs, but the other key things that you may want from a maintenance perspective on those vehicles. And as you collect that data, it's all relevant to your IFTA. So again, your ELD platform should give you your IFTA data collection so that you can easily capture your mileage and fuel consumption by state or province. And then there's a concept more of the advanced telematics. Your trucks are getting more and more sensors. There's more and more information that's available. So what else can I monitor on my truck that's relevant to my workflow and that makes sense to know about in real time from either the dispatch perspective or the driver perspective if they're not getting it already. So some of that can be such as load sensors, any external equipment that you may want to monitor on the truck. For example, tank levels. Are your drivers underfilling the tanks on the tanker truck so they're not going to be exceeding any violations, but therefore you're losing productivity because they're not filling the tanks to be full, or are they overfilling the tanks and then causing issues as well? Is there PTO that you want to get? Temperatures. So look to your truck and say, what else do I want to capture from this that makes sense in my workflow that I should be capturing with the same hardware that I put in my truck for ELD? Should have capabilities to tie into other things on board the vehicle to give me value in monitoring my fleet. And again, now that I have all this connectivity to the vehicle, you have the ability for some accident notification and reconstruction. So again, you can leverage your ELD as a little bit of a black box. So in that case, you can look at, ideally I'm getting a real-time notice. If there's been a significant G-force event or significant impact, it'd be great to get a real-time alert to my safety manager to say, hey, there's been a significant enough G-force event, I think you should follow up right now and see if there's been any issues. And at the same time, after the fact, you kind of want to do a second-by-second data capture of activity. So you can see a little bit of that black box, what was happening right before the incident and shortly thereafter. And, basically here's some samples here where this was actually a rollover where these are G-force sensors, and you can see where blue line speed, and it just gives you an idea of what was going on. And then you got the grid data was when was the brake applied, what was the speed, was the cruise control on. So various black box information. Because you have all that ELD hardware in place for your vehicle, you should also be able to get this type of feedback from the system. And part and parcel again is driver behavior. So if you have GPS telematics, it's the same functionality you should be getting out of the GPS system. But again, you should be looking at things like speeding, vehicle idling, aggressive driving, like harsh braking, harsh acceleration, unauthorized vehicle use. Are they using the vehicle at a certain time of day when they shouldn't be? So that, those types of driver behavior. And then with driver behavior, it's all about notification reporting tools. I should get real-time alerts for anything that's super critical. I don't want an email every time something happens all the time, or I will never, the first hour it'll be cool, and after that you'll want to turn off your email. But having strong dashboard tools and driver scorecard reporting so you can match drivers against the fleet and determine those that need a little more training and those that should get a reward as well for being a good quality driver. So that's driver behavior, again, is another important aspect of ELD. A lot of you guys are going to have mixed fleet. So you want to be able to have a platform that's going to be able to support my non-ELD required vehicles. So you can have light-duty vehicles, you can have trailers, you can have snowmobiles for that matter. So the solution goal, I want to have the same map, the same system, the same platform for the vehicles and drivers. And if I have drivers that are alternating between light-duty and heavy-duty vehicles, you want to have a consistent approach to the behavior metrics. So when I'm scorecarding my drivers, I'm not using two different solutions, different systems. You're using a common platform, a common methodology. And so with light-duty vehicles, you need a solution that can also support basic GPS and telematic devices or a non-ELD compliant mobile computing if you're doing more than just GPS tracking on those light-duty vehicles. And then trailer tracking, again, you want the same architecture to be able to support a range of trailer trackers to meet whatever needs you may have for that side of your business. And then another key component is going to be the dispatch and field ticketing. That can be a very significant ROI for your organization. And this may be a piece that says, this isn't something I'm ready to do today, but when you're looking at the ELD platform, look at a roadmap for, what do I need to look at this a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and make sure you've done your homework to say, hey, do I got the right fit that's going to help me today and tomorrow and the next day? So field ticketing, you can spend hours just on this particular element its own, but the gist of it, if I'm electronically dispatching, I'm avoiding duplicate data entry. I'm not waiting for handwritten paperwork to eventually make its way back to the office to eventually get re-entered into accounting. That's error prone. 2 weeks later when you're trying to figure out what was written down, no one remembers. It upsets your customers if you're given the wrong billing. It helps me reduce your billing cycle. I can literally bill in real time if you have electronic dispatch and field ticketing. And from a customer service impact, and you'll let your customers know the real-time status of all the work you're performing for them. You can validate all the work you perform with them because you're going to have timestamps, real-time locations of where everything occurred for any particular job you're doing with that vehicle. And now that you have a bunch of this data and systems, and the fact that you will have existing accounting or ERP systems already in place that are certainly not going away, you need to have the ability to integrate and have strong integration tools into your back office systems. So whether that's your accounting logistics system for field tickets or that side of it, or whether it's a maintenance system where I want to be bringing in my engine hours, my mileage, my trouble codes to create work tickets in my maintenance side, or my vehicle inspection, integration, getting records for all the faults created by the data, your daily vehicle inspections. So you got to make sure there's industry, tools that are there, such as web services and APIs, or even ability to do custom. If you have an in-house system, you may need a custom integration. So look to a vendor that has strong integration tools, so those ELD and all the other data they may be capturing has access to it for your existing back office systems. So I know we've gone through a lot of things fast, trying to hit our 15-minute time frame, but at the end of the day, the ELD, you're making that decision now to add a new bit of technology into your fleet. And while you can just do an ELD, there's a lot of value in adding these other components so that this one platform, as you need it, you can add the other capabilities and functionality and give that greater ROI to you, give that greater customer service and competitive advantage to yourself as well. And again, at the end of the day, integration is a critical point of having all that ELD data and all that other associated functionality and platform back into existing back office systems. So that was the fire hose of initial information here in our quick 15-minute session. So if there has been any questions, Sarah, again, I'm more than happy to have one-on-one conversations with anyone, go through details on pricing hours will come up as a question. I can certainly address that individual cases as well.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, everyone, we're going to open up the floor for the questions now. We did have a few come in. Just a reminder, if you have any questions, please send them to host using the WebEx chat tool on your screen. Provided that we have enough time, Mike will be happy to give you an answer. One of the questions we had come in was, would the black box be tied to the DVI setup?
Well, the mobile computer would be the black box. The mobile computer and device would be providing the DVR checklist. So the touchscreen in there would be giving you the DVR checklist. Now, the black box would be providing any trouble codes or whatnot, but the DVI health, the function of that is run separately on the touchscreen device.
Okay, and another question we had was, what if a driver is not in a vehicle? How do they account for the shop time or other work they do when they're not in their truck?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, because if ELD, a lot of this is about I have a device in a truck and I'm using that. There's also you can utilize web portals, anywhere there's a computer, maybe at your garage, your shop, if guys are doing shop time, they can log in on alternative computers like that to access their logs and create an on-duty status, not driving.
Okay, and earlier in the presentation you mentioned how Canada should align with the U.S. in the next 2 years and how they enforce this mandate. Would you mind going over that again, and what is the difference between the U.S. and Canada today?
Well, right now today there's obviously there's logbook laws, but there's not a formal ELD legislation in Canada yet today. basically what's happened is Canada kind of stood back and said, okay, let's let the U.S. finish the ruling and get it deployed. But now there's a lot of pressure. There's been a lot of pressure within Canada to say, hey, we got to adopt the same rules. We have a lot of cross-border traffic. It doesn't make sense to have two different scenarios, especially for all those organizations that cross-border. So there's been a lot of pressure on the Canadian government to formalize and go to an ELD solution that's aligned with the U.S. The province of Ontario themselves were actually looking to do their own provincial one as well ahead of the federal government. But it was good news to hear this week that the federal government is after the recent election has concurred that they need to continue the ELD mandate for Canada.
Okay, we did have a couple questions come in about pricing. We'll be happy to pass along your information, and Mike will get in contact with you for a more detailed discussion. Looks like that's all the time we have for today. At this time, I'd like to thank you again for taking the time to attend today's presentation. Hopefully you've all secured some valuable takeaways to keep in mind moving forward. Mike, I'd also like to thank you on behalf of AssetWorks once again for sharing your expertise and product highlights with everyone today. As you see, his contact information is available here, should any of you have any questions or concerns. Also, we'll be posting the links to this webinar recording on the AssetWorks community, so be sure to check that out as well as our customer newsletter for information on future power webinars. Thank you all for attending today. Mike and I will be sticking around for another few minutes in case any of you have any questions. Otherwise, have a great day, and we look forward to having you with us next time.
Appreciate your time. Thank you, everyone.